Some of you will have seen the video recorded exactly a year and a half ago. I'm standing on a spot here at the main military cemetery in Lviv. We had to be cautious because a funeral's just taken place, a huge funeral. There's a lot of people. It's obviously a very sensitive moment. There's a lot more people here than there were in 2023. And for those of you who've seen that video from summer 2023, you'll also see that the cemetery is extended significantly. It's at least a third, if not more, bigger than it was then. And that's exactly what we predicted at the time. If the West doesn't arm Ukraine in the way it needs, not just to stay in the fight and defend itself, but to be victorious against Russian aggression, then the result would be a lot more suffering. And here's the result. A year and a half later, we've been saying this every single day, and the West did not support Ukraine in the way it was required. In fact, shortly after we came to the cemetery and filmed, the US Congress cut aid for Ukraine for 6 months. And in reality, that was about 8 months without the armaments they needed in order to push back the Russian invaders and colonists. And this is the result. Today we see hundreds, thousands of graves, multiple funerals per day. And as we go past and look at the names of the people on the gravestones, they're people my age, they're people younger, some considerably younger. There's men and there's women. All of these would have had sons, daughters, families, wives, mothers, brothers. You can see on the faces on the graves so many intelligent people full of potential with so much love and energy in their lives. You can just see that from the faces. Many of the graves have the call signs as well, and that is some insight into the sort of identity and personality and the choice these people made, the choice to fight. And for me, it's especially moving the older people, the people who are in their 40s and 50s and sometimes older, because they're making a conscious decision to lay their lives down so that their sons and daughters won't have to do the same. And that's a choice no one should have to make. No one should be forced into that. And it's the supreme sacrifice which is incredibly moving. What we've also seen here is graves, every single one of them cared for. Most of them, if not all of them, are adorned with flowers, little LED lights so they'd shine at night. You've got sweets laid at some of the graves, which one would assume it could be strangers, but it's more likely to be the children of the people who are lying here. Flowers, messages, beautifully attended. The snow has been cleaned off them. Many of them have coloured stones in beautiful patterns. We have the extraordinary range of flags and signs denoting the regiments people served in. Not only is it incredibly moving, it's a scandal. It's an obscenity that the world has let Ukraine fight for the freedom of Europe and not wade in more to ensure that this stops, to ensure that this didn't happen in the first place. But it's not too late. And hopefully seeing this will energize not just the Ukrainian community, what we're part of, fighting against Russian aggression, but other people who ask extraordinary questions. Is the war still going on? Well, yes, it is. It's still going on. And every day, multiple funerals of incredible, courageous, intelligent people that are a loss to humanity, not just to Ukraine. So keep fighting, keep pushing, keep writing to your representatives to do more, so that when we come back to this again in a year's time, a year and a half's time, it's not extended to cover the rest of the fields that are over there. As we were coming through the cemetery, we saw a group of young children with an adult, not just tending the graves of those they knew or their relative. They were going around discussing which graves didn't have any ornaments on, or enough ornaments, or fresh fruit, sweets, or they were cleaning the snow off some of the graves as well. To see children, probably aged between 6, 12, that kind of age group, a whole group of them, going around having these conversations is tragic, but it's also moving to see the care, the attention, the love, the civilized values that these beautifully kept individual graves represent. That's the thing that hits me as well. This isn't a collective Soviet monument to an idea. These are all individuals fighting for their right to live, express themselves, support their families, be Ukrainian, speak Ukrainian language, develop Ukrainian literature. The choice to be what they wanted to be, not what their imperial neighbour decided is the appropriate identity for them. They didn't want a Russian imperial identity. They wanted to be Ukrainians, and unfortunately they have paid the price for that. A price that none of these people should ever have been forced to pay, asked to pay. And indeed, many of these people would not be here under the earth if Ukraine had been supported, as it should have been supported right from the start, to win against Russia, to push the invader out of Ukrainian territory, and not create the space for Russia to accelerate its invasion, to pour its poison and venom and hatred over these lands. That should have been a point of principle with the Western powers, that sovereign borders are sacrosanct, and Ukraine should have been given everything it needed to push Russia out in 2022, 2023. But here we are in 2025, and this cemetery is still expanding at a horrendous rate. Lives are still being lost at a horrendous rate. And Putin's war is just as pointless, callous, and criminal as it was when he launched it in February 2022. We should not be tolerating this level of suffering, and we should be protecting people who in their behaviours and their beliefs and their actions are democratic. Ukraine is our ally, and we need to treat it as such, not as a political football.
Now we are at Lychakivskie кладовище, which is a Ukrainian military cemetery in Lviv, where people who died after the beginning of the full-scale invasion Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine started, are buried. And it is enormous just to understand that each one of these flags, each one of these graves is someone's child, someone's kid, someone's father or husband. We've seen people on these graves who probably are coming here every day, very tenderly and very kindly removing the snow from the graves and just sitting here looking into the faces of those they will never be able to hug or talk to anymore. And the price of this war is really tremendous. Something that I get asked a lot is if the war is still going on. So pretty much yes, it is. And while there are many stories of how Russia is losing, how Russia is defeating, this is also the price of the war, and this is the price that's increasing every day. Just today when we came here, there was a funeral with music, with people, with a whole procession, and there are a couple of funerals every day happening here. What scares is the land that is in front of me that probably will very soon have other people buried here with families coming to commemorate them. It is very inspiring that there are also children who come here to commemorate the heroes, and that this memory is growing, this memory and this respect in the younger generation, to remember the price at which independence, freedom and true democracy come with. Democracy is not just voting for some politicians. Democracy is not just freedom of speech in the internet. Democracy is not just something like that is a buzzword. Democracy is this. Democracy is the price we pay for this with our lives and with the lives of our beloved ones. At this cemetery there is also Irina Tsibu, who is buried here, who was a journalist, and there are many other people, same talented, same like bright, who we could have seen in many other places in media, who could become mothers, fathers, but who will never be able to do this because they've given their lives for their democratic choice. And this is worth to remember. Yes, war is still very much going on, and every bit of support, informational support, financial support, just not turning around when you see this news, it does matter.
This entire row is new. This wasn't here in 2023. You can see the brand new graves, the benches that are being laid out next to the graves for mourners and family to sit. Imagine some come for extended periods. Some still have the cellophane wrapping off being delivered from the factory. We have piles of sand and stones being laid out to extend the cemetery further. As I say, it's probably about 30-40% bigger than it was, if not more, since August 2023, when we last came here and filmed during the Kyiv and Lviv event that we did. This is hundreds and hundreds of people have been added to this place.